please.
Sarchet?
Yes.
Vogel? Yes. Anderson?
Yes.
Walters?
Yes.
Dvorak?
Yes.
All right then. So we'll move on to number 1 under A then. We need to have that approved, don't we? Resolution 2023-63 approving FY 2023 budget amendment. I ask for a motion, please.
So moved.
And a second. Oh, thank you. And roll call, please.
Vogel? Yes. Anderson?
Yes.
Walters?
Yes.
Dvorak?
Yes.
Sarchet?
Yes.
Great. Item number 5 is public comments. This is the time and place for comments for any item other than those that are a public hearing. If you wish to speak, you should have contacted the city clerk by 6 p.m. right before this meeting or by email. And I understand we have 2 people who have asked to speak.
That is correct. Ken Morris?
Okay. Ken, please come forward and state who you are and your address, please.
My name is Ken Morse, 1308 West Side Drive. I'm here to address the council regarding proposed ordinance 2023-6000, which is on your agenda tonight. This ordinance was discussed 2 weeks ago, and I was under the impression that the proposed ordinance was dead. Now, 2 weeks later, it's back on the agenda again, and I would first just raise the question, who's driving this ship, where's it going, and why? The only change in the ordinance proposed before you tonight is one sentence in section 2 that states, but specifically excluding those dwellings and accessory structures in an agricultural zoning district A1. I'm of the feeling that was added to appease me, but it isn't about me. I'm unaffected by this ordinance. I would again ask you to consider the farmer that someday gets annexed into the city limits and gets rezoned from A1 to R1. Section 1A of the ordinance states that the general manner is a continued aesthetic quality. The general manner in which use and development is accomplished shall be compatible to and in harmony with the character of the zoning district as established or proposed. Previous sentence refers to continued aesthetic quality. I don't think it's fair to make the farm look like the city any more than it would be to make new homes surrounding the farm, make them look like the aesthetic quality of the farm, and just who is going to enforce aesthetic quality. I don't think the city council should be adopting an ordinance that will negatively impact the farms that will inevitably be annexed into the city limits, or enforcing your standards of aesthetic quality, which are vague, difficult to enforce, covered by new construction covenants and unnecessary government. Based on comments from the city council 2 weeks ago, I would again ask, who is driving this ship? Where is it going? Why? I'm sure that you have far more important and relevant issues to spend your time on, and I'd vote no on 6,000 and get on with the issues that truly matter and are fair to the residents of Polk City now and in the future. I know you're focused on our future, but don't forget about our past. Something was said to me about this being requested by commercial developers, and I would remind you that you are here to represent the citizens of Polk City. Commercial developers only have one thing in mind, and that's to make money. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Ken.
You're welcome.
The second person is James Klein.
James, please come forward. Boy, you're a handsome-looking young man. Will you say your name and your address for the record, please?
My name is James Klein, Polk City resident. I live at 908.
Great.
Great evening. My name is James Klein. I'm a Polk City resident, and I'm a 5th grade at Bay Creek Elementary. And I'm here to speak out about golf carts in Polk City. Polk City. While it's great, there's something sad that we don't allow. Golf carts driving. It's more controversial than you would think. People talk about it a lot, somewhat a lot when it is brought up. First, golf carts are solutions. They're not bad or problematic, and they make Polk City. They are solutions. For an example, an electric golf cart is environmentally friendly, running on only on batteries. Not all of us can afford Teslas. Guess how many people die or are seriously injured in car accidents? A lot. Here are 2 reasons to prevent the number of car accidents. 1, this would limit how many cars are on the road because lots of people are just getting around town. This could drastically change usage of cars and save money. and save people money on gas and save the planet. Second, kids could learn how to drive in a safe way by practicing in the neighborhood. Of course, they don't have to be old enough not to crash. Second, they're not bad. A golf cart would be quiet, and if you live by Northwest Polk City Drive, you know cars aren't quiet, nor motorcycles. Also, if it's gas, it doesn't take as much with a car as a car. With gas prices these days, that's a steal of a deal. Also, they've worked for a while. The average lifespan of an electric golf cart is between 20 and 40 years. However, it is important to keep in mind that if you do not keep up with the proper maintenance, there is no guarantee that the electric golf cart will even last 10 years. Quoted from Walt's Electric Cars. Thank you for this valuable information. Also, I understand that we have some streets within the city boundaries with speed limits up to 35 miles per hour. Having a golf cart going 35 is probably not realistic or ideal, but them going slower could help slow the speed of traffic in these areas. If the council feels like golf carts should not be on streets with speed limits of 35 miles per hour, you could limit access to these streets and allow golf carts only to go on streets of 25 miles per hour or less, but still allow crossing on the 35 mile per hour streets. Lastly, they make Polk City look good. Honestly, if I had the choice to make Polk City look good, I'd take it. Anyway, it gives Polk City that small town feel. I like that vibe. Also, we have golfers and golf courses in Polk City. And if you visit some parks in Polk City, and the Papa's Pizzeria, it has the golf cart on like the sign and up there. People people will love it, especially kids. When 4-year-old Isabel is riding around on a golf cart, she'll have a giant smile on her stretched across her face, making everybody happy. This is the year I'm trying to change my lifestyle to be healthy. So help me make 2023 the year of change. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
very much.
Yeah, good job.
We'll see you on council in 20 years. Great. We'll move on then to item number 6, which is consent items, and I'll ask for a motion in a second, please.
So,
Second,
second.
and roll call.
Dvorak,
Yes.
Polk,
Yes.
Vogel, Anderson,
Yes.
Walters.
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Before we move on, I'd like to say that I've heard a lot of comments on the sports complex infield replacement project and how pleased everyone is with it.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to 7 then, business items. We'll begin with Ace Hardware. Travis, you're up, please.
So for your consideration tonight is a site plan and plat of survey for the commercial outlot located within the Crossroads at the Lake Plat 1 development. The first item on your agenda, or 2023-66, is approving a plat of survey. When this development originally went through, the final plat included this lot as an outlot. So this is a cleanup item, essentially making this a buildable lot on Polk City Code. And then the site plan, it's a just over 15,000 square foot building. It meets our architectural standards. They provide more than adequate parking per the city code, and they've addressed all of our comments.
All right then, let's move on to number 1 then, resolution 2023-66, approving plat of survey. Motion, please.
So moved.
And second?
Second.
And roll call.
Make comments, so.
Yeah. Okay.
Please. So this is the right time, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, between the council members, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just wanted to an update from P&Z. There was, there was a lot of concerned homeowners around the ACE plat that were more concerned about the maintenance of streets and really the overall maintenance, was it Travis, the approach and who was gonna pay for the cost of maintenance of the street, because it's a HOA.
Yeah, I guess that is worth mentioning. Hickory Way and Willow Way, the locations of the two driveways are private streets that were constructed as crossroads plat.
Yeah, so essentially this commercial, would add to that, so, our suggestions were that to go back and talk with, the developer and then also ACE, try to figure out what the best route is for them, but the city, really has, our hands are tied on any HOAs.
Right, it's not a city issue, that's an issue
Right.
within the association.
So understandable from the regards of concerns, but certainly I think between the three parties, they can come up with a good solution. Also, it was unanimously approved by P&Z as well, and excited for Ace Hardware, to be honest.
As am I, and I'm just, in watching the P&Z meeting, I'm really surprised that the neighborhood did recognize that this was always a commercial lot, and I think this is an addition for the entire community, but not necessarily a problematic one for those in the backyard. But I do like the fact that we're using the access road, and those are private roads, so I think there's something to monitor during construction, and then maybe a little bit less so ongoing use. And I know one of the things that was brought up was outside storage, and I think that's a fair point, but I think that's probably not for either the preliminary plat or the site plan stage of things, but just something that we can monitor as we go on. But there's really nothing that the city can do from a construction progress standpoint, right? We've got monitors, but they're not necessarily monitoring for the workload or the load of a delivery vehicle for those private roads as opposed to anything that would be on a regular, right? So I think that's where, unfortunately, in that position, I don't know if we have anybody from the neighborhood, but something that they're gonna have to monitor, remedy, when and if it happens, rather than proactively trying to avoid that it happens, where we have that capability, or would have that capability if it was a public road. So I think those private roads kind of give me pause anyways, and this is another example of why. So, but again, overall, was pleasantly surprised how the P&Z went, and I think this is a good, solid addition to the community.
Only thing I'd like to add is, for a long time, we had a hardware store. In fact, we've had two hardware stores in Polk City over the years. Just didn't have the population to support them, and now we do, and it's one of the things I hear a lot of citizens mention. It'd be nice to just be able to stay within town, pick up nuts and bolts instead of driving to Anchorage.
Roll call.
Walters,
Yes.
Dvorak,
Yes.
Sarchet,
Yes.
Vogel, yes, Anderson.
Yes.
Moving on to number 2, then, Resolution 2023-67, approving site plan. Ask for a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Vogel, yes, Anderson,
Yes.
Walters,
Yes.
Dvorak,
Yes.
Sarchet.
Yes.
Moving on then to B, Lakeside Commercial Plat 1. Travis.
So for your consideration tonight is a preliminary plat, final plat, essentially splitting an existing lot, 3 separate lots. The purpose of this lot split is to separate the existing mini storage from the existing boat sales and storage facility, and I guess make them function separately, so that they can be owned by 2 separate entities. The final plat includes several shared facility type easements, driveways, stormwater overflowage, as well as detention, and cleans up some of the caretaking type items that come with splitting of these lots. Your approval tonight would be subject to provision of final legal documents as approved by the city attorney.
And there's only one that's missing, and that's the stormwater management facility and easement the attorney who is assisting with this knows that it has to be received and that we will not release the plating documents until such time as that document has been received by myself and the city engineers.
We need to make that into a motion.
Yeah, just whoever makes the motion, make that a condition of the release of the documents.
It should be in the final plat resolution. That's the motion, the preliminary plat. You don't need to mention that in that motion.
So we're gonna approve number 1 as,
As is,
Read.
yes.
okay, so we'll move on to B. 1, Resolution 2023-68 approving preliminary plat. Motion and a second, please.
Second.
Any discussion?
No, I really did want to, ever since I knew this was coming, and Phil and I go to a lot of the same soccer games, I wanted to come find some obscure thing just to hold him up, just to mess with him a little bit. I couldn't find things, so congratulations, Phil. It's cool stuff for, just to add some color that probably isn't necessary, but I'll give it anyway. Build a successful business, and then somebody wants to come and buy it. I think that's good for you, and congratulations. So,
Thank you.
congratulations.
So we'll have roll call?
Vogel? Yes. Anderson?
Yes.
Walters?
Yes.
DeVore?
Yes.
Sarchet?
Yes.
Item D2 then, Resolution 2023-69 approving final plat including record of lot tie and SWMF maintenance covenant. Ask for a motion and a second, please. Is this where we will?
And this is the one that is, the resolution is approved, should be approved subject to receipt of the stormwater management facility agreement.
And would you like me to read that into this or just,
I've got it.
Jenny's got it.
we have, okay. So then we'll ask for a motion and a second.
Second.
Any comment? Hearing none, we will call, roll call, please.
DeVore?
Yes.
Sarchet?
Yes.
Vogel? Yes. Anderson?
Yes.
Walters?
Yes.
Item C, Resolution 2023-70, authorizing real estate purchase agreement in the amount of $200,000. Chelsea?
For the council's consideration this evening is a purchase agreement for real estate located at 306 South 3rd Street. The purchase agreement outlines a purchase price of $200,000, and this would be used for a future police station.
So we'll ask for a motion and a second, and then any discussion.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, we will ask for roll call, please.
Vogel? Yes. Anderson?
Yes.
Walters?
Yes.
DeVore?
Yes.
Sarchet?
Yes.
Item D, Resolution 2023-71, authorizing real estate purchase agreement in the amount of $140,000. Chelsea?
I have another purchase agreement for the council's consideration this evening for 314 West Wood Street. The purchase agreement outlines a property purchase of $140,000, and this would be the same use as the previous agreement.
So we will ask for a motion and a second, and then any further discussion.
Second.
Hearing none, we'll call for roll call, please.
Walters?
Yes.
DeVore?
Yes.
Sarchet?
Yes.
Vogel? Yes. Anderson?
Moving on to item E, first reading of ordinance 2023-9000, amending chapter 92 water rates, section 92.02, rates for service. Chelsea, do you want to talk about that?
So for the council to consider this evening is an amended water rate ordinance, and specifically the first reading. The water service availability charge would increase from $9.65 to $10.62. And then the usage per 1,000 gallons will increase from $6.45 to $7.10 per 1,000 gallons. And the irrigation usage charge will be $12.12 per 1,000 gallons.
So ask for a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion?
You know, excuse me, good. We used to get seems to me like, and maybe I'm wrong, we used to get comparison of what the average user's bill was, and with this increase, what that average bill might go up to.
Yeah, we can certainly do that for you for the next meeting. And I would recommend the council do all 3 readings for this ordinance, so we can try to prepare a minimum bill and maybe an average bill for the next packet. Okay,
Yeah, that, similar to where I was going with that comparison that I mentioned in the work session. One, it would be nice to know, like you said, the impact to people here, but then I do think it's relevant to see how and how much other communities in the metro are billing, because I think, especially for the longer time residents who have seen an increase when we were subsidizing water bills or sewer bills, more specifically with local option sales tax 6-ish years ago, whenever it was, there's still a little bit of sticker shock. And so the notion that I think is important for us to convey to people is that we are billing based on the cost to us, and in a very, so you heard any part of the last hour we spent with Matt Stoffel and EFM, it's not us estimating, it's a very analytical process to get to that number and where those subtotals lead up to the total utility bill. So some people aren't going to be concerned with that and focus on the fact that it's going up and they already think it's too much. I guess I don't know what to say to that, but I do think that there's a message that we can deliver that says it's based on the infrastructure we need, the emergency services provide, the impact to both water, sewer, and irrigation water use, all built in there. So. And I agree with the notion of methodically going through the 3 separate readings as well.
And what I've learned to accept is when we used to produce all of our own water and had plenty and could get by with water, well, we're like still here, we had that, and so I always thought that water should be a break even. But now I'm finding out we need to get more money for the future because of increased usage.
Well, I mean,
does that make sense? Does everybody follow what I'm saying? Because I'm not even sure I do.
it's still a break-even component. We just have to factor in the projected
Yeah,
costs.
but there's money in those funds, and you tell me what they're called, that we have now. And for example, we're using some right now for the water tower, different things like that, and it's something we didn't always do in the past.
Correct, but we're also not, nor have we ever used water or sewer funds to pay for anything.
Oh, yes, we have. Yeah. When
We
I
used
first
water or sewer money to pay for other things?
police cars, pickup trucks. Yeah, we have.
Not since I've been up here.
Well, no.
Okay, all right.
Before, you might not even know where Polk City was then.
Probably did.
But remember, I've been sitting up here for a lifetime.
Where?
Just thank you for the walk back in history.
See, there's that eye roll I was telling you about.
Now we're going
is that a
to,
verbal eye roll?
now we're just going to ask for roll call, please.
DeVore,
Yes.
Sarchet,
Yes.
Vogel. Yes. Anderson,
Yes.
Walters.
Yes.
Moving on to F, first reading of ordinance 2023-9100, amending chapter 99, section 99.02, sewer service charges. Chelsea, please.
For sanitary sewer, you will see a 5% increase in rates. I do want to provide that correction because the memo says 6%, but it is a 5% increase. The sewer availability fee will increase from $18.80 to $19.74. And then the usage charge will change from $12.45 to $13.07 per 1,000 gallons of water used. So those are the proposed sanitary sewer rates. And again, I would recommend the council have all 3 readings of the ordinance at separate meetings.
Ask for a motion in a second then.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Ask for a roll call then.
Walters,
Yes.
DeVore,
Yes.
Sarchet,
Yes.
Vogel.
Yes.
Anderson.
Item G, Resolution 2023-72, amending fees charged for solid waste and recycling. Chelsea, again, please.
Yes, so our ordinance for solid waste does not outline fees, so we will be doing this by resolution. But the new rates for July 1st, garbage and recycling, solid waste will be $11.13, which is a 40-cent increase from $10.73. And recycling will be an increase of 22 cents, so $4.54 new rate up from $4.32. And this would be effective after July 1st.
So I'll ask for a motion and a second, and then we'll have any further discussion.
So
Second.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, I would like just to cover in the last three, they're all rate increases, and I get sick of it. Everything is going up. It doesn't make it right. It's just the way it is, and it's passed through amounts. You know, we're not just arbitrarily putting fee percentage increases in place. It's passed through, and I hate it as much as anybody else because nothing is cheap. Everything's going up. This is really just a sign of the times apparently, and we're the bearer of that news to the citizens. So don't think that we don't take them seriously as well.
Well, to tag on with what Dave said, we have to pay our bills just like everybody else, and this is not money that are going in our coffers, it's to pay our providers. Unfortunately, their costs.
yeah, and 62 cents is, pretty marginal increase. I do think the connection we've got with Metro Waste is paying dividends and ability to, their ability to negotiate across just us. And I know you're noticing something that's not happening, but 5 less garbage companies driving through town every week. It has been a welcome sight from my perspective over the last, 3 years.
Ask for a roll call, please.
DeVore,
Yes.
Sarchet,
Yes.
Vogel,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Walters.
Yes.
So item H, first reading of ordinance 2023-6000, amending chapter 157 site plan. Travis?
So for your consideration tonight is an ordinance revision to your site plan ordinance that essentially clarifies the applicable zoning districts that will be governed by the permanency and strength of materials in proportion to the aesthetic characteristics. It essentially ties your site plan ordinance to the acceptable building materials as outlined elsewhere in city code, as well as the red highlighted sentence in your packet was in addition to the previously failed ordinance, specifically excluding agricultural zoning. As a clarifying matter, I did want to mention that any existing building that is annexed into the city is grandfathered in, and all of your annexed properties come into the city as A1 zone. So it is worth noting those items, that this does not, it's not like if a property becomes zoned or is annexed into the city, whether by voluntary or involuntary means, they are not immediately bound by this regulation. There are multiple steps between annexation and enforcement of this for existing.
I want to add something to Travis's comment too. The last 2 voluntary annexations the city has done, we've entered into annexation agreements with the property owners. And I know that sometimes those owners have had concerns, and I'll give you a couple of examples, like their driveway wasn't paved. They wanted to have livestock and still come into the city limits. So we do identify some of those concerns with particularly voluntary annexations, and we do allow for an annexation agreement, and we do alleviate a lot of those concerns through that agreement. So I know we didn't talk about that at the last meeting, but I did want to bring that to your attention for consideration this evening.
And as a matter of clarification as well, Polk City does not make a habit of involuntarily annexing property. We have enough upkeep costs of utilities and those kinds of things that we're kind of dealing with as a growing community anyway. So we don't make it a habit or a policy to
go out and voluntarily annex.
Is that something we've done in the past?
No, sir. I'm quite proud of the fact that every one of our annexations have been 100% voluntary.
I thought that.
And when they change from A1 to R1, it's usually at their request, not ours. And not usually, always. Am I safe saying that?
As I say, for a rezoning request, that's initiated by the property
I
owner.
can't say never, but
Yeah.
it's rare, and I've been here a long time.
So I appreciate Travis's and Chelsea's clarification. I do think that, and I agree with most of what Ken said, not all, but most of it, slow. But I think there's a little bit of a misconstrued takeaway from the last failed notion. And what I would like to see, I think, here is to take a pause. If we need to vote on this, I'll be a no. Or if we don't, put forth the motion. But the original issue is quite a ways away from what we're implementing here. And with your point of not immediately affected is valid. That doesn't mean it won't eventually affect, and you know, further administrations down the road may not be as friendly with annexation agreements as we have been. So we put ordinances in place. I think we have to keep that in mind. So, but that's a secondary point to the original one, which is, I think the original reason for this is not necessarily being addressed by this ordinance here. So at least my perspective, and I don't want to get wrapped around the axle like we did last time on procedural issues here, but I'm not in supportive of going ahead with this at this time. What I would like to see is a work session so we can identify where we see the original issues. I think maybe we put that on something in your neighborhood, Ron, that we shouldn't have here, and just understand the impacts of some of these changes, both to what we have and looking forward to annexation.
You won't get a disagreement out of me. And as to who's driving the bus, I'm not driving it, but I kick-started it.
I understand that, Ron, but I don't, as you said.
Yeah, wait a
That's
minute.
not being.
Let's just, council, this is council time.
I understand.
So let's have council comments, and that's what we'll have now.
Isn't that, so maybe we are going to get wrapped around the actual procedurally, because this is a public meeting and we should allow for feedback when we get to the specific motion, correct?
We have allowed for comment from the public during the public comment session, but we don't entertain questions from the audience when we are in the process of voting on something.
Okay, and I understand how that, we have to stick to agenda items, but I really do think we've got to be more flexible in allowing a dialogue around what we're doing at the time when we're doing it, and having people talk for no more than 5 minutes with 20 minutes in between when we get to an issue is a struggle for me. And maybe it's just because I don't understand Robert's rules and some of the things that we could get in trouble with, but I know you're doing your job, and this isn't meant at anyone in particular. I just think we need to get to a better spot where there's an appropriate, not lengthy, not unorganized, not shouting, not any of those things that I know we're concerned about and have genuinely been issues. Des Moines has been a disaster this last year. I get it. However, to not allow any non-structured public comments specific to an agenda item in a public meeting is problematic. So,
Thank you.
Can I make a comment on what he said? If
Well,
I'm not allowed to talk as a council person, I'm leaving.
You can make a comment on what we have before us. Really, I think our discussions later, we can always bring this up for discussion later, but right now, we are just on this one. And so we have to just proceed with that, and we have to ask for a motion on, this is G, right, Jenny?
You are on H.
H. We have to ask for a motion and a second on H and stick with that, and then we can have any further discussion. So I'll ask for a motion, please.
Motion.
And a second, please. Hearing none, then I guess H will fail at this time, and we will take it up at another time. So moving on to I.
Before we move on, procedurally, we can bring that up in 2 weeks. I made a motion, it died.
You should, yes.
Just so we can continue the process, vet this out.
Can only he bring that motion?
Yes, I believe since he's the one that made the motion and died, that's it. Right, handle it. Yes, Dr. Roberts rules.
And the time frame is what?
Is the next week.
And only the,
The only reason I do that is because we talked about that last time. We didn't want to kill it. So that's the proper way to allow
Yes.
staff to keep moving.
genuinely asking for.
Yeah, that's why I made the motion.
So moving on to I. Third reading of ordinance 2023-8000, consolidate current U1 to GF zoning districts into a new GF1 zoning district. I'll ask for a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second?
And roll call.
Dvorak,
Yes.
Sarchet,
Yes.
Vogel,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Walters.
Yes.
Moving on to J, special event application for Go Polk City's Four Season Festival. This is to approve everything below it, all at once. The festival, the noise ordinance, the street closures, so forth and so on. Now, who is presenting on this tonight? Brian?
I'm just his banner.
Please.
My name is Brian Nelson. I reside at 408 East Madison Drive. I'm board president of Go Polk City Chamber of Commerce. We're here to discuss or present what we're doing for Four Seasons Festival, which will be on July 14th, 15th. So we have a committee that's been working on this for quite a few months, and we're trying to bring back the day and a half event we used to have. We had quite a few, actually, probably majority of people would like to see that come back, so I have a mini fest that we've had the past few years.
Actually, can you get like? Thanks.
As you can see on our committee, myself and Brandon Converse, we have Rob Sargent as logistics, Amanda Cladd as operations, Corey Hoosier in finance, or actually he's doing sponsorship. I'm handling the finance and stuff. Ashley Delaney in marketing, Chrissy Brisley as volunteer for safety. So we've been working on this for quite a few months. What's going to be going on is on Friday night we'll have some events around the square. We'll have bands playing. The beer garden will be open. Saturday morning we're going to start off with 8K, 5K, 2.5K, and that's going to be ending at the square. And then we'll have our parade at 10 o'clock. We're asking for 3rd Street to be closed from 9 o'clock through 8 o'clock that afternoon for the run and for the parade, and also we would like to use that area on 3rd Street between Van Dorn and Broadway as our vendor area. One thing we're working on is we're trying to keep a lot of the stuff off the square so that the public can use the square. We will have a few things on the square, such as we'll have a pieing contest, horn checking contest, a few things around the bandstand. We're asking for Van Dorn to be closed from 3rd down to 1st Street. Broadway from 3rd to 1st Street also, and of course 2nd Street. We are going to have a food truck. Well, we're going to have a food area on Van Dorn that we'll have a few food trucks, but it's also going to have quite a few tables. We're going to have a 10 areas that people can go and eat, whether they get food from the food trucks or they get food from one of the restaurants from around the square. In the Van Dorn and 2nd Street area, we're going to have a kids zone with inflatables and games, and also have a toddler zone so that we can they don't get trampled on by all the kids. And then on Broadway, we're going to have our beer garden area. We're putting the stage on the corner a second Broadway. We're kind of facing it at a little of an angle so that people don't have to go into the beer garden area to enjoy the bands. You know, there's a lot of families that they don't want to. They want to go and listen to the bands and stuff. They don't want to go to the beer garden, alcohol and whatnot. So we want to set that up so that people can go and enjoy it. You know, they can sit in the square, they can take blankets or whatever, they can listen to the music. The committee's done a really good job of setting this up so that we're not blocking businesses that are going to put in that time. The map, the setup's going to be a little different. That map says as far as that red outline where the fencing would be. It's going to stop before the pub, so we're not blocking the pub. And we're not going to be blocking the cafe, and we're not going to be blocking La Familia or Papa's Pizza. We really focused on not having to close it, not any businesses feeling like they have to close down, because we want them to be part of it too. An area down around First Street that's going to be blocked off for the Legion's having a bike night on Friday night, and we may or may not have a car show down there. That's kind of up in the air. It is. Okay, I found out as of today it is a go. So, I think I've touched on all those. Any questions?
Really quick, just, this is the map of the 2.5K, 5K, and 8K. So it overlaps almost completely with the parade route. So last year's parade route, one of the concerns from the council and from feedback that we got was it was a zoo when everybody was trying to unload. So you'll notice from last year where those chevrons are near that blue end sign, this year's parade route has an unloading zone that was recommended by Chief Sipker, where all of the floats and entries will move down to Grimes and Church and unload in that area, because that area will be initially closed for the run, as that's where it goes off. So we're thinking there won't be as much street parking in that area for the parade, because those streets were already closed because of the run earlier. So it would be a good spot for floats and parade, or floats and entries to unload.
I just want to say thank you for the committee and for volunteers and for you two standing up and taking time out of your night. And I know many endless hours of planning as well. And also what you're saying as far as the different category with kids and toddlers and everybody being able to enjoy the bands. Those are awesome. I mean, that's exactly what we need. Just because it just allows a more safe, friendly area that's what we want to promote, safety, obviously, and making sure that's all taken care of. This is a wonderful event. I know everybody looks forward to it and really appreciate the time and effort and by everybody.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Let's go ahead then and ask for a motion to approve J, the special event application for Go Polk City's Four Seasons Festival. And a second.
Second.
Roll call, please.
DeVorak,
Yes.
Sarchet,
Yes.
Vogel,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Walters.
Yes.
Moving on then to reports and particulars. We'll begin with staff, please.
I've got one.
What?
I've got one. So with your approval of pay application number 11 tonight with the roundabout, we have paid a vast majority of the items that will be associated with that project. We are waiting for seed to grow, and then we'll be ready to close or accept those.
Great.
You just have the statue left?
Yep. From what I've heard, it's a fight between him and Mike as to whose statue it's on.
Yeah.
A statue of them fighting.
So moved.
So I think we'll then move on from staff. Is there anybody, unless there's, well, there is no staff.
They're in there, so.
They're all in there.
Jamie's
Okay.
got something. She sent a nice email.
Jamie? Yes, no?
Nope.
No, okay.
I thought she sent a nice email
She did.
with some
She did.
funding assistance, library.
You can bring it up on
Yeah,
her
you
behalf.
can.
I just did, I bring it up on that, she got a nice little chunk of change to help with the study, I believe, so that's great news.
Okay. So we'll move on to the city manager then.
I do have one thing. So last week in our staff meeting, Mike Schulte brought to my attention that Wednesday, May 17th was his 30th year anniversary with the city of Polk City. So I just wanted to congratulate Mike publicly, thank him for everything he does for the community, and just tell him how lucky we are to have him.
That was supposed to be a secret.
I think it's a sunburn, but your face is red.
It is, but yeah, I'm getting better.
You were hiding that.
It's been good. I just brought it up because the meeting at the time, and yeah, Ron, I've been telling people too, you were on the council when you hired me, by the way.
Strictly my choice. What good decisions I make.
Yeah, yeah. Been a good run so far. Not over yet.
And you've been good.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank
You do a great job.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Yep.
Anything else,
No,
Chelsea?
that's it.
So, council, anything from the council?
If I may put a bow on what Rob was talking about with the ordinance, it is important. The reason why this is so important, the outstretching of urban to the rural areas, or that is a piece that I don't want to lose focus on as a city, that we are thoroughly vetting these resolutions out, not just for when we're here, but for future generations, so it doesn't impact these Century Farms or whatever farms there may be impeding on. So I think let's be intentional, to your point, talk about what that looks like and how it would impact. If it hasn't happened yet, it could still happen. What does that mean? What does happen mean, right? What would have to happen for an agricultural homestead to then be R1? And I think you answered my question earlier today, but I think we just have to better understand that. So thank you for wrapping the present. I put the bow on it. Talk about it a couple weeks. You did that. I appreciate that.
Anybody else? Any other council?
I have a few things. So I don't want to go down another rabbit hole that we were already in, but I do think it's a slippery slope, the dialogue on things. I think we should have conversation. We should hear from our people, but I think as we grow too, again, we should hear all people evenly, and we've got to be careful if we know Ken, we talk to Ken, but then if there's somebody else, we shut it down. So I think too, to have clear and consistent expectations with how our meeting is run. I take a conservative approach on that, but I do think, again, I loved seeing a full house today. I loved seeing kids in the audience, whether somebody brings their kid with them, whether we've got a kid speaking up about golf carts, a Boy Scout, I want to continue engaging the public. And when I look at this room, I'm so thankful for our new city hall, and I'm excited to have more capacity for people to come. I encourage people to reach out to us. It is on us to have continued conversation and come educated, having thought things through. So I just wanted to speak to that point a little bit, that I agree we don't want to shut people down. We don't want to not hear from people. But I get the point too with running a structured and consistent meeting. So I do hope we have continued participation, engagement, attendance, people that speak up and cause us to revisit things a couple times so that we land in the best possible spot. But yeah, it's a fine line. So that was my one comment on that. And then my other comment is I continue to be so appreciative of partners like PFM who do help us make really good decisions as we move forward. Like I said, it's always tough to pass on rate increases and things like that, but I think we're all able to walk away though with a pretty clear understanding of why we're doing what we're doing for that, and planning for the future, not just sitting on what's in front of us today, but doing a lot of forward-looking planning ahead. And I think that's really important to continue to do.
Oh, I agree, and I don't know if it's been a long time since we've had an uprising in here, although I have witnessed a few. And I think it's important we remember who we represent. We represent the voters of Polk City, and when they want to ask a simple question of what is a WRA? And that's the question we had to answer a couple months ago, because the gentleman in the audience didn't know what the WRA is when we were talking about it at great length. And we have to remember that everybody have the same information we have. And, yeah, if they want to get in a shouting match, then no, we don't want to, we have Jeremy handle that part. So, we gotta remember who we represent.
Okay,
One quick thing for me, sorry. So I know we're winding down on the spring sports season, and I think we all got contacted on, the, regional sports complex and how it's kind of maxed up, and piggybacking off of our work session with parks, I think we need to use that, experience that people have. And again, I think I know some solutions that are probably more of the Band-Aid variety than a long-term fix, but, again, I think it's important for people to know that we are trying to work through that in partnership and utilizing with, our volunteers on the Parks Commission, maybe a little bit better going forward, but, do recognize the issue out there. Fortunately, I wasn't involved in it there this last weekend, but, I think soccer ramped up, so the congestion is behind us for this spring season, but something on the radar less to try and get to a better spot, because if something bad happens, it's gonna be hard to absorb, like it would anywhere, I guess, but, nonetheless,
Something I wanted to say before they all left, that committee for the Four Seasons Festival, for doing that, be willing to make some changes and improve what we have. I hope that's a good thing. So I'd like to thank all of them when I see them out.
Back row.
Yeah.
anything else? I just would comment on one thing, and it might not be what you think I might want to comment on. I'd like to just piggyback on what Ron said earlier about congratulating the Little League and the city for working together on funding the infield project. That kind of city, private organization funding arrangement is what I would like us to see more of in this city. So whatever you did to make that happen, Jason, thank you very much. And also my thanks to the Little League Association. So with that, we will ask for a motion to adjourn.
Can I designate somebody to do it? No, I'm kidding. Motion to adjourn.
And a second.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign.